All right, I want to talk about something that just will not go away. Sourdough starters, because let's be honest, this isn't new. People were baking sourdough long before it was trendy, long before social media, long before we were naming our starters like they were part of the family. And yet, here we are, still feeding flour and water like it's a pet. So what is it about sourdough that keeps pulling people back in? It started, but it didn't end. A lot of people think sourdough blew up during 2020, and that's true. Everybody was home, stores were out of yeast, people had time. So they tried it. But here's the interesting part. It didn't fade away like most trends do. It stuck. And not just with hardcore bakers, with everyday women, busy households, people who don't even consider themselves from scratch types. It feels like control in a good way. There's something really grounding about sourdough. You're taking two basic ingredients, flour and water, and turning them into something alive, something useful, something that grows. And in a world where a lot feels out of control, that matters. Feeding a starter, watching it bubble, seeing it rise. It's small, but it's steady. And there's comfort in that. It connects us to something older. Sourdough isn't complicated, but it is traditional. This is how bread was made for hundreds, thousands of years. Before packets, before shortcuts, before everything became instant. And I think people are craving that connection again. Not in a complicated, overwhelming way, but in a let me get back to something simple kind of way. It slows you down, whether you like it or not. You can't rush sourdough. You can try, but it won't cooperate. It has its own timeline. Feed it, wait, let it rise, let it ferment. And in a life where everything is fast, rushed, and right now, sourdough forces you to slow down. It feels like an accomplishment. Let's talk about this part because it matters more than we think. When you bake a loaf of sourdough from your own starter, that's not just bread. That's effort. That's patience. That's skill you build over time. And when it comes out right, that crust, that crumb, there's a kind of pride there you don't get from opening a package. It's not just bread anymore. Here's where sourdough really took off. People realized, oh, I can use this for more than bread. Now it's pancakes, waffles, biscuits, crackers, pizza dough, cinnamon rolls, even cookies. And suddenly, that jar in the corner of your kitchen, it's not just a project. It's a pantry staple. It fits the use what you have lifestyle. You know I'm always talking about pantry cooking, freezer meals, making what you have work. Sourdough fits right into that because once your starter is going, you always have a leavening option. No last-minute runs to the store, no realizing you're out of yeast halfway through a recipe. It's just there, ready when you are. The frugal factor. Let's not ignore this part either. Flour and water, that's it. In a time when grocery prices are doing whatever they want, being able to make bread, real, hearty, homemade bread, for pennies, that matters. It becomes a habit. At first, sourdough feels like work, feeding it, figuring it out, wondering if you're doing it right, but then something shifts. It becomes routine, like making coffee in the morning, like pulling something out of the freezer for dinner. It just becomes part of how your kitchen runs. Let's be honest, though. It's not always romantic. Sometimes your starter looks questionable. Sometimes it smells weird. Sometimes you forget to feed it. Sometimes you bake a loaf that could double as a doorstop. And that's part of it too, because sourdough teaches you something most modern cooking doesn't. You don't have to be perfect to keep going. The community piece. This one surprised a lot of people. Sourdough created community. People share starters. They troubleshoot together. They swap recipes. They name their starters, and somehow that turns into a whole conversation. It gives you options. Here's what I really love about it. Sourdough doesn't replace convenience. It adds to your options. You can still use quick yeast recipes. You can still rely on pantry mixes. You can still pull from the freezer. But sourdough? It's another tool in your kitchen. You don't have to go all in. Let me say this clearly, because I know how this goes. You do not have to become a full-time sourdough baker. You can keep a starter in the fridge. Feed it once a week. Use it when you feel like it. Ignore it when you don't. This isn't all or nothing. Why it's still popular. So when you put it all together, it's not just about bread. It's about slowing down, saving money, using simple ingredients, building a rhythm in your kitchen, feeling capable again. Bring it back home. At the end of the day, sourdough sticks around because it works. Not perfectly, not quickly, but reliably. And in a world that's constantly changing, there's something really comforting about that. Closing thought. If you've been curious about sourdough, or maybe you tried it once and gave up, this is your reminder. You can keep it simple. You can start small. And you can make it fit your life, not the other way around.